Hello, my name is Ben,
Hello, my name is Christian.
and welcome to the Too Vague Podcast. One word, two hosts, stories, trivia, and video games. How are you doing, Christian?
I am doing wonderful, and I gotta say, I am so excited to talk to you about this word today.
Awesome. If you are a regular listener, Christian from Imaginary Game Studios.
Hoorah!
I don't know why I want to call it Imaginary Game Studio. There is only one, so.
It's studios. You have to imagine that there's many of us. We can afford many locations in all of the major cities that you've ever heard of, and some more.
All run by various Gabbos in each state.
Exactly.
Gabbo being one of the NPCs and Rogue Climber.
Our mascot character of our upcoming what do you say if your game is in early access? Is it still upcoming, or is it out now?
It's both.
It's Schrödinger's coming soon. Rogue Climber action platformer on Steam. Go check it out. It's got Gabbo in it, and Gabbo's adorable.
You see a game and you assume that it's out, and then it goes, no, it's in early access. It's not always super clear.
On the Steam page, it will tell you that a game's in early access, but then you get this blue box that tells you top 5 questions of why is this game in early access? But then Steam has very strict guidelines about the language that you use.
Okay.
So it ends up being that every game's blue box of early access sounds like every other game's early access description. For Rogue Climber, we are in early access right now. It's the 5 main story chapter levels. It's a procedurally generated game, and you can play through each of the individual level themes separately right now, and you can experience all the different enemies, all the different items, all the content is there. And then once we get closer to the full release, that's when we're going to turn on the crazy proc-gen algorithm that's going to mix and match stuff and give you all that infinite replayability that you want with your roguelikes.
The only reason I mentioned the early access stuff is because, as far as what I've been up to, I've been playing a couple of games. I sent you the trailer for one of the games that I got a review code for, which is called Monday Syndrome. It is self-described as a single-player action roguelike, which was released on Steam in February, developed by indie developer
Good luck with this one.
Hyesmo?
Heismo? H-Yesmo.
H-Yesmo.
I don't know.
There's not a lot of information about this developer, but apparently he's from Pakistan. It's published by Blackburn Games, which is a game development and publishing company based in Istanbul. Not Constantinople, in Istanbul. Been a long time ago? No. They started out as a game studio and became a publisher. This game has got an interesting concept, but the early access thing reminded me, I probably played it for a good 2 hours, and it just feels unfinished. All the bosses, I was playing through one round. You fight a printer at the end. Let me just read the description from their page. That's probably easier.
And just to check here, when I look at it on the Steam page, it does not say early access.
It's out fully, but based on the stuff I've seen in research and whatnot, the developers say that it's like they're adding more bosses, or this. So if it is out fully...
That's a whole nother thing. When a game says that it's out, they're still going to continue updating it.
So, I mean, I guess, strictly speaking, it feels like it's in development. It doesn't feel necessarily like it's a full release to me. And it's got pretty decent Steam reviews.
Yeah.
Monday Syndrome is a single-player action roguelike where you play as an intern trapped in a hellish office. Descend into a satirical corporate hell, literally, battling demonic co-workers with absurd weapons made from office supplies, an endless procedurally generated tower. Can you survive the eternal 9 to 5?
Your excitement is palpable.
I'm sorry.
We got to get you in your movie trailer voice. Monday Syndrome is a single-player action roguelike where you play as an intern trapped in a hellish office.
Yeah, I would do that if I was excited about it, probably. Let me just say here, it's got an AI-generated content disclosure that says the developers describe how their game uses AI-generated content like this. We've used AI technology in a minimal capacity to assist the creation of the game's visuals. AI was utilized primarily for generating rough background sketches and concept drafts, All final artwork was hand-drawn to ensure personal, unique touch and to maintain a distinct artistic style in the game. That's a unique disclosure these days, I think.
I have to give them props for being brave and honest enough to include that in their Steam page, because it is very hard to find that disclosure on Steam pages, and I would be very surprised if even a plurality of game developers are not using AI tools in some capacity.
Yeah. Being fully transparent about that kind of stuff, you may turn off some people, but at the same time, if they discover independently that you're using AI, which the game community does do, they look at the code and they can figure some stuff out. That is kind of a ruiner in certain cases, I think, especially given the current idea of AI. So it's a twin stick shooter where you beat your office employees that are around, your coworkers. There's a meta progression thing that happens. I didn't get as far enough in that just because it was just boring at a certain point. And playing through the boredom, it didn't really give me a reason gameplay-wise to do that. It's got an interesting idea where whenever you pick a power or modifier, I guess would be more appropriate in this case, where it gives you extra speed, extra damage, extra crit, whatever. Each one of those comes with a negative. So one of them is you get this crit bonus, but you shake uncontrollably occasionally, which can really screw with your fighting these things. The idea is an interesting idea, but it kind of ruins the flow a little bit for me. And one's like your speed is increased, but occasionally you'll just accelerate. You'll just run for no reason because it's hell. I guess it makes sense. But the office just looks like an office.
That kind of trade-off, it's a really obvious thing to do as a game designer. I don't necessarily mean that in a negative way.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to make it fun. It's very easy to say like, oh yeah, you want every choice to be challenging and require thought and matter and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, people like dopamine, people like their explosions, and they want to make more explosions happen. They don't want debuffs that make fewer explosions happen.
And maybe it's because it wasn't fully realized as a concept, because the idea itself is a good idea. The office worker, it's not postal by any means. If you're an intern in hell, that's a funny idea. You go between levels, you eliminate all the enemies on a level, and then you go to the next level. You can buy upgrades and things along the way. Every once in a while, those choices appear on the screen and stuff. And there is apparently a crafting system. You level up your character with different perks. And when you do that, it looks like a Windows scenario. There was one where these random ads appear on your screen and you've got to clear them off.
That's pretty good.
Then there's also this annoying office assistant thing, which was my idea, by the way. When I worked it into it, I thought that we needed to have an annoying office assistant that would just bring up stuff like, yeah, I'm a little too busy right now to proofread this, so check it out. I saw some pictures of cats. And then it just pulls up a random cat picture or whatever. The annoying office assistant. But that's kind of what this is. He'll just chime in randomly and appear on your screen. And I think he's a T-square, which is an odd choice. But as far as parody goes, it's funny. But just not fun to play. I mean,
Oof.
Playing it for a couple hours, it was just you're swinging your bat or whatever, and it just gets really repetitive very quickly. It's unfortunate. It was something that had promise, but to me personally, it just didn't hold my interest for very long and just wasn't fun for very long.
I'll say I can see that there's some definite game designer love going on in here with the different types of upgrades and being able to combine modifiers together to create new awesome attacks and stuff like that.
I'm not denying that. It just feels like the balance needs some work.
Sure.
I mean, I'm sure it could be a great game. When you're talking anything roguelike, you got to balance your fun with easily obtainable and revealable bonuses for each time you play and new things to add to the machine, so to speak.
That is one of the biggest challenges with roguelikes is that a lot of times you'll find a certain upgrade path that you like doing, and then you just always end up trying to aim for that same upgrade path on every playthrough, which kind of defeats the purpose of the roguelike. But then the opposite end of that is you might find something that you want to do, and then the game just doesn't give it to you, and then it feels like the run that you did is a waste. So you weren't able to find the right kind of synergies that you wanted.
It's still fun trying to figure that stuff out, I think. But, you start with one weapon. It doesn't give you a selection. And you got to play through until you get a certain amount of experience or money or whatever to unlock new weapons. I would have liked some variety right off the bat, personally. And that kind of dovetails nicely into the other game, which is called RACCOIN Coin Pusher Roguelike. You're a coin pusher. You're going, hey, you want some pennies? They don't exist, man. I'll give you some pennies.
Are you a coin pusher fan?
I wouldn't say I'm a fan. It's a fascinating concept to me. I remember having them in our arcade, and what they would do is you would put tokens in them, and they would push the tokens, and then it had a ticket redemption sort of mechanic.
Yeah.
So you didn't get the tokens, you got tickets, depending on how many tokens you pushed off the platform or whatever.
Yeah. Our coin pusher games were terrible. You know where the good coin pusher games are? They are in Japan, my friend. Let me tell you about some coin pusher games. They are so cool in Japanese arcades because the way they work, this was like a whole new world for me, where you could have an arcade of entirely coin pusher games and I would go spend all day there. It's like pinball in complexity and fun, retentive loop, good juice stuff, First of all, Japanese coin pusher games, they got big brands associated with them. My favorite one was the Monster Hunter one, but they also had like a big Mario one next to it. There was one that's Ocean Mermaid Girl that was like really popular. I don't think that's based on any existing IP, but they're circular and they're huge. And there's like a bench that up to 2 people can sit. So there might be, like 8 or 10 different stations around one coin pusher machine. The key difference here is that you don't put tokens in directly and you don't get tickets out. You go to a machine where you could go spend $10, $20 to get a bucket full of coins, and you put the coins in directly.
Okay.
In our arcades, right, you spend like the token, and that gets you like 10 coins, like fake coins. You spend one fake currency to get a different fake currency to push a third fake currency, and your brain's melting because none of it makes any sense, and then you get like a measly 3 tickets out and you cry. That's our coin pusher machine. Their coin pusher machine, you spend $20, you get a huge, hefty bucket full of metal, and you're like, oh, this feels substantial. And then you go put your butt up against one of them benches, and you start feeding your coins in, and it's all about like timing, and you get into like a rhythm, so it's like kind of hypnotic. But then the coins you push off just fall directly back into your bucket. You just keep going and going. So like on $20, you could spend hours at one of these coin pusher machines if you're good, if you're lucky.
What do you win?
Nothing. It's just fun. I mean, you win more of the coins.
Okay, so like pachinko, kind of.
Well, pachinko can be actual gambling.
That's kind of what I was leading towards, is like, can you redeem your coins for your money back or an amount of money, or is it just for the fun of doing it?
See, that's the American brain coming into play, and that's why our arcades are lame-o, because it's all about trying to get 4,000 tickets.
Disagree.
Okay, all right.
Our arcades are lame-o when it comes to ticket redemption stuff. I agree there.
Sure.
But I don't go to an arcade for ticket redemption stuff.
But the arcades are designed around making you want to get tickets, which shouldn't be the point of the arcade.
Exactly. In my early 20s, when I worked at the machine, that was the big seller, was these ticket redemption items and manning the ticket redemption booth, and it was kind of going away from the arcades. The arcade games were dying and being replaced by these different silly little ticket winning type of things, not just the coin pushers, but all across the map, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of lost the feeling for me. So that's the fun, is just playing the game then, as far as Japanese coin pushers.
So we could spend 16 podcast episodes and I would just talk to you about the layouts of Japanese arcades. But sticking to the coin pusher thing specifically, the basic function of coin pushers, as I've seen them, is for parents to sit there, maybe smoke a cigarette if they're into that sort of thing, or just drink a coffee or something, and you can just hang out there for hours on $10-20 while your kids go run around and play other arcade games. So it's more like a way for the parents to chill.
Interesting.
And do something that's like relaxing and fun. And if you're not into, because then you also got like the horse racing stuff, and that's where a lot of the retention comes from Japanese arcades. Of course, you got like the rhythm games where the machines are like huge and complicated and you couldn't put it in your house even if you wanted to. But then you got a lot of games where you have your ID card where you can save data to it and come back every day, every week, however often you go. I don't think the coin pusher games have that. Anyways, I like coin pusher games. I spent many, many hours playing coin pusher games. I've wanted to make a coin pusher video game at some point, so I'm excited to take a look at this one and see how they did it.
In doing a little bit of research for the history of the coin pusher, I believe it was 1965. Let me consult. Penny Falls was what it was called by Alfred Champion Limited. 1964. It was just a single platform. Oh, it says where 12 players could play simultaneously. That's interesting. The humble beginnings of the coin pusher. But I also saw in looking at this stuff that there's a marble pusher that they have in Japan.
Wait a minute.
That Konami makes.
A marble pusher, but marbles roll.
It's very interesting. I think it's worth you looking at right now.
6 years ago. Okay, this is a very, very low quality video.
Came out in 2018.
Okay, all right. I mean, it looks like the same kind of thing.
But it's got a video game component to it where you're using buttons to stop numbers. To me, it looks more like gambling. It looks more like a slot machine. It looks like it's a combo slot machine coin pusher.
Okay. There is a lot of slot machine in the coin pusher thing. With the Japanese coin pusher general setup, you've got 3 holes that separate the top platform from the bottom platform. And if you get coins into those holes, that will automatically spin a slot machine for you. And basically getting them into the certain types of holes is buying into different rows and columns or whatever of, I don't know my slot terminology. But the more coins you get into those different holes, the more chances you have to win at the slot machine. And then winning at the slot machine can cause special events to happen, where there's like cinematics with like quick time events and mini games.
Yep, that's what I saw.
Dropping the balls down like special things. And if you get super lucky, the whole frickin' center of the machine opens up and like a special pinball thing opens up and you get to play like a pinball thing. It's crazy.
Okay, but you don't win anything.
You have fun. What do you want? What do you want, man? You want to go get a Tootsie Roll that takes you like $48 to get 600 tickets to get 2 Tootsie Rolls? Like, that's so sad.
I want cold hard cash. That's what I want.
Well, then go to the casinos.
I don't know if Japan has the whole gambling online thing locked down.
Oh, I have no idea.
But I mean, that to me, it's one of those things where this wouldn't have happened even if it could. It's like there would be restrictions in place for all this sports gambling and stuff that you can do online. I believe coming ahead, we're going to have a lot of gambler hotline kind of, you know what I mean? Like that kind of addiction. People.
Gambler hotline. Are you kidding me? You and I both know it's going to be gambler AI chatbots.
It's probably that. Yeah, it's probably that. But anyway, this RACCOIN game I've been playing a lot of.
Okay.
There was a game that came out on the iOSs that was called Dragon Coin, which was kind of a part coin pusher, part RPG, where you had gotcha things that you would get different powers and slot your different characters that would impact the quote-unquote coins that were on the field and stuff. But it was just basically a fancy coin pusher. It was a lot of fun, but it just didn't stick in the United States. It was very popular in Japan for a while. You know, and there were like a lot of microtransaction stuff. You would unlock things, the free things, but if you wanted to buy better coins for your deck of characters that had different powers and stuff, you could do that.
Okay.
But it's not that advanced. It's more of just a standard coin pusher. You're putting in coins from 2 different sides, and then it does have powers that you activate depending on the coins. You've got a store where you can buy special coins that do things like UFOs and will destroy coins, or there's a black hole kind of thing that sucks up all the coins within an area. And then once the machine gets to a point where it doesn't have enough coins in it, it'll refill the coins with coin rain. But then there's also one with a big tower of coins that just kind of appears out of the bottom platform, which kind of sounds like something that one of your coin pushers could do, like the ones from Japan. Assemble a big tower of coins, which would be interesting. I
I have not seen that.
I've enjoyed my time with it so far. I've just started playing it. More to come later on my assessment of that. So that's it. Do you want to talk about a quick game news blip? Since we talked about AI,
What you got?
DLSS 5, do you have any comments on DLSS 5? That's Nvidia's new technology that was released.
I don't think it is released. I think it's set to be released in November, but based on the response, who knows what's going to happen?
Well, it seems like the CEO is completely clueless about who this technology is for. He keeps on saying developers as opposed to gamers. It's like the gamers want something, and I thought that was kind of Nvidia's thing for a while, wasn't it? Like gamer focused?
I'm a little bit out of the loop on PC parts in the last couple of years, so I'm probably going to miss some context here. Forgive me that. But Nvidia is trying to help developers make products that are going to make money. And so what's the Nvidia CEO going to do? Is he going to come out and say, like, this thing that we just spent tons of money on sucks, so don't use it? No, of course he's not going to say that. He's got to come out. He's got to play the game. He's got to defend it. He's got to rationalize it, do whatever he's going to do, and then ultimately the market will decide whether it succeeds or fails. As far as like developer control, I think that's probably trying to appeal to the techie gamer PC master race sort of guy by saying that, you know, we're trying to protect creativity here. Whether it's actually doing that, I would have my reservations. I will say that aesthetically, for hyper photorealistic art styled games, it almost kind of makes sense. As soon as you take it away from that, Nvidia posted like a 2-minute video and they showed like characters from Hogwarts Legacy. That old lady is the stuff of my nightmares. Oh my goodness gracious. It does not handle that at all, in my humble opinion. But from the perspective of a businessman, if you were to put this in front of Susie Soccer Mom, who's looking to buy the next football game for little Timmy, I find it hard to believe that Susie Soccer Mom wouldn't look at those graphics and go like, ooh, this looks crazy and new and fancy and little Timmy's gonna love it. Let me buy it.
I think it's perfect for something that is attempting to be realistic, like in Electronic Arts. I mean, there's still characterizations. Not all the players look exactly like the likenesses of the actual players. Most of them do these days. Something like that seems to be the right place for that kind of realism, that kind of skinning, I guess, which is what it looks like. It just looks like it's reskinning them. People said looks maxing, but you'd have to do a detailed analysis.
It's doing a lot with lighting. If you're into cinema, you will notice that it all seems to be using this very like stock cinematic lighting profile, and it will do things like interpret where the lighting source is supposed to be coming from, and it might get that completely wrong. But like that attention to detail, I just don't expect most people picking up the latest FIFA are gonna care about that. I find that so hard to believe.
Yeah.
And I don't see anybody arguing that point. All the arguments saying negative things about the technology, and I think it's absolutely wonderful that people are as opposed to AI as they are. I love that. I think the more that we can protect creativity and artistic intent, the better place the world is going to be. So kudos to you guys. But so much of the argument against that technology is about the quality of the product. And they say the characters don't look the same. It changed her facial structure. It changed the lighting, or it didn't get the lighting from the right angle, or it didn't get the style right. And it's like all that stuff is just going to get better. And so if it gets better, are you going to start liking it now? If it looked better, would you love it? Like, is that the problem? Just that the quality isn't high enough? Because that's going to get improved.
My hot take is just saying that it's AI tech. You didn't have to say that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, the chips are AI chips or whatever the new technology is on the chips. You don't say that. That is not a value add if this card's for developers, maybe that would be something that was compelling. If this card was for...
but then you don't post that to your YouTube channel.
And an unveiling of that, you put that information in the documents. You don't put that information in the front. Now, maybe I'm thinking about this as a gamer more than I am as anyone who's a game designer or developer. So maybe those buzzwords are going to be more effective in a company than it is for me as a consumer.
That's the part that's the most confusing to me, is that it's on the Nvidia YouTube channel. FIFA players are not watching the Nvidia YouTube channel. It's the hardcore PC tech gamers that are watching Nvidia stuff. So Nvidia doesn't make that announcement. Nvidia hands the technology off to EA and Ubisoft, and then they sell their games by saying AI-powered graphics, and then you put that on TV in a Super Bowl ad, and the people watching the Super Bowl go, whoa, gaming technology's come a long way, wow.
Exactly. All you had to do was say an advanced algorithm simulates this, that, this, the particles, whatever. And if you don't like that, that's fine. But I think a lot of people out there are so anti-AI and very resistant to quote-unquote AI slop that just saying AI in the same sentence as trying to promote or sell this card, it was the wrong decision. But then also, the CEO, Jensen Huang, was asked this. Since DLSS 5 was revealed yesterday, there's been a pretty vocal response from some of the gaming community that the technology appears to make games worse, homogeneous, or show only Nvidia's view of how games should look. How do you feel about that criticism? And the response was, well, first of all, they're completely wrong. The reason for that is, as I have explained very carefully, DLSS 5 fuses controllability of the geometry and textures and everything about the game with generative AI. Okay.
Sure. Marketing speak, whatever.
Yeah, but let me tell you a little story. I used to work at Starbucks, and I would work with people who would do this when someone would return a beverage. They would say, well, I made it according to the recipe. That's the first thing we would say.
Okay.
That's not what you say to a customer. You don't tell them they're wrong. You make the beverage again. That's what you do. That's how you win over your people. Whether they're wrong or not is not the issue. You just remake the beverage.
Yeah.
This kind of response it's not surprising from a CEO, quite honestly.
Hold on. Are you suggesting that the CEOs of major tech corporations are not extensively experienced in providing good customer service? That's crazy. Are you telling me that Mr. Huang hasn't worked at a Starbucks before? Probably not.
You know what would really be an excellent use of AI in businesses? Replacing CEOs.
CEOs.
You don't need to replace the people doing the grunt work. You need to replace the management with the AI. That's not going to fly with most companies. They're going to go, oh, no. We need human. You're saying that for these tasks, we don't need humans. Oh, well, they just do different jobs now. Making business decisions based on data and trends seems like something that an AI should be doing, because it seems like they could do that well, whereas interacting with customers about their technical support issues seems like it has way more nuance than, at this point, AI is capable of. Not to get down to the AI rabbit hole, but that's just kind of like, maybe I'll pitch that in some sort of a meeting. I may just cut this part too, because it's like, it's a little close to home at this point. Maybe replace the president with AI. They might make better decisions, but
my TLDR assessment of DLSS 5 is it's a very confusing business move on Nvidia's part. I don't understand why they made the announcement. I don't understand why they made it in this way. And I don't even understand what the product is. It's clearly an AI filter, but they claim it's not an AI filter. But what even is DLSS? Like, does your average gamer know what that even is? If you're in the PC gaming community, I'm sure you do. I'm sure all your friends do. I don't know how representative that is of everybody in the world who plays video games.
My TLDR in this whole situation is it was a move to gain investors. in a field that is showing a lot of people investing in it because they think it's going to prove fruitful. So that is a message to investors, not a message to gamers.
Sure. But then don't you just talk about that on your internal investor quarterly calls?
Boom.
I don't know.
That's exactly what you do, unless you're trying to drum up additional investors. And Nvidia's stock has been less than stellar since they dropped a whole bunch. So maybe, I mean, who knows?
True.
Who
And
knows?
like I said, I'm probably missing some context here. I will say the quality, it does have room for improvement, but also I wholly expect it to improve. And whether improving is a good thing for game developers and gaming community, I don't know.
Only time will tell. Enough of that nonsense. Let's get into the word this week, which is the word localize.
Oh my God, we timed that so perfectly.
I'm going to line them up in post anyway, so no one's going to know there was any kind of offset.
Now you don't have to.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I have to say, I'm so thrilled that you allowed me to bring in a made-up word. I didn't know that you allowed made-up words on this podcast, but as you know, Imaginary Game Studios has developed Meticulous, a gamified health companion that's all about trying to maintain a healthy diet. And so what does Meticulous do for you? It helps low-calorie-ize your eating. Localize. We're low-calorying your meals. It's beautiful. I can't wait to spend the next 16 hours talking to you about diet and nutrition. Let's go.
Localize. Yes. Okay.
I spent all night thinking on that plug.
About localize.
Meticulous is real, but the localize joke is not. Yes, localization. It's cool stuff.
You know what? I'm going to focus on just the word localize, and then we'll get into localization.
Sure.
Which, I mean, there's overlap. So it is a verb, localize. I'm not going to say what the third person or the past tense or the past participle or the present participle. I'm not going to say any of that stuff. All I'm going to do is the definitions. To restrict something to a particular place or part of the body. Adapt something to meet the requirements of a particular area. Assign something to a particular place. That's what localize means. Should we go into the Google Ngram viewer? It's pretty simple. Localize has steadily increased over the many years in print. And it makes sense with how we're becoming more global as time goes on, right? So it makes sense that localization would be a consideration in that kind of endeavor. So,
of course.
Where's the origin? Let's see. Doesn't even have an origin?
I just made it up.
First known use is the meaning defined at transitive sense 1. Well, that's weird. Boy, I didn't know I was going to need a decoder ring to figure this out.
Gonna have to drink more Ovaltine, I guess.
I guess. Yeah, drink your Ovaltine.
Well.
Yeah, all it says here is just earliest use, often cite 1792.
My AI overview informs me that it is derived from late Latin localis, meaning pertaining to a place, and the Latin locus, just specifically referring to a place or a spot.
There we go. Thank you, Gemini. So that's your word this week, which I didn't see the localize thing there, but I guess if you restrict it to a certain part of the body, I mean, I guess there is some overlap. Localize.
If we want to talk about the medical side of it, you know, a big thing with localization in your diet and nutrition and fitness is that everybody wants to do spot reduction of fat, specifically around the waist or in the underarms or anything like that, which I can tell you that barring some research suggesting that there might technically sort of be a way to slightly do it, large and beyond, it is a myth. Spot reduction is not how people naturally lose fat. The way you lose fat is just by being in a continued caloric deficit over an extended period of time, and you do tend to lose fat from the top down. So the first place you'll notice it is in your face, and then you'll notice it in your neck and in your arms, and then finally, eventually, it'll get down to your stomach and your thighs, as much as we wish that we could start the other way around.
Does building muscle work the same way? It probably doesn't.
No. You can...
Because you localize
muscle
things.
localize.
Yeah.
Yes. That is specifically based on where you are exercising. If you never do
Exactly.
curls, you probably won't get giant biceps.
Yes, diet is very important when you're building muscle too.
Gotta get that protein.
Christian, what is the first thing you think of other than low calories when you think of the word localize?
The first thing that comes to my mind when I think of Localize is, of course, the most famous... Is this the most famous gaming line of all time? You contradict me, please, in the comments below. All your base are belong to us.
Yes.
What statement is more famous than that?
That is from Zero Wing, right? The home version, Zero Wing.
I couldn't tell you what game it's from. I've seen pictures of it. It was, in fact, slightly before my time. I apologize.
And the guy that you're fighting, his name is Katz.
There you go. Cutscene from the 18... Back in our great-great-great-grandfather's arcades. No, from the game from 1989.
That butter churning simulator was pretty awful, though. I didn't like that one.
You're talking about untapped potential here. What is the indie game market doing with butter churning?
That sounds like it would be big in Japan. Don't you think? You got your physical, you got your exercise. Who needs dance games when you got butter churning?
I mean, America is the capital of butter and cheese and deep fried foods.
Yeah, no, I know. I just think it would be a fun little mechanic. Zero Wing, as you were saying before I so rudely interrupted you with my butter churning, released on the year I graduated high school.
But it wasn't translated into English until 92, apparently, for the Sega Genesis / Mega Drive port. But it is incredible just how far along translation and localization has come from you would try and port something to like one other language maybe, to now localization is its own industry in video games. There's hundreds of companies out there that are all vying for your localization budget. When I went to Tokyo Game Show, we must have talked to at least 6 or 7 different localization companies that offer services for that.
So when a company wants you to buy their localization service, is translation a part of that? Because I know there's a difference between translating and localizing. Do they sandwich them both together? They say, we got to localize, and that means translation is part of the deal. What is your thought?
Just to set it up for this conversation so that we're on the same page here, I'm understanding the difference between translation and localization to be that translation is literally converting one sentence's vocabulary and grammatical structure from one language to another, whereas localization is understanding the cultural context of what that sentence means in one language, and then potentially generating a completely different, unrelated sentence so that it has the same tone and impact and meaning in the overall experience. It's a great question which one of those two things is more important. As far as the businessman in me goes, I would say that, localization is key versus the idea of translating an artist's creative vision into another language and trying to preserve that as much as you can. At the end of the day, what most people want, especially if you're in the industry trying to hire a company to do localization for you, what you want is consumers to have a good time, and the quickest, easiest, most consistent way to do that is with localization over strictly trying to translate language. Because undoubtedly, you've played poorly translated games where, due to budget and time constraints and all that other good stuff that I do not begrudge any game developer for, they just took their script, pasted it into Google Translate, and you copy and paste what comes out.
You need someone to proof that, right? Don't you? I mean, you would expect.
You would hope so, especially if you're going to go hire a localization company. That would definitely be part of my expectation. And if you're vetting 6 or 7 different companies to provide localization services for your video game, I would absolutely consider, do they actually have the staff and the capacity to have people in these different countries that understand the cultural relevance of these different languages? I work with an Indonesian national. It's been very interesting to get his feedback on our translations into Indonesian. Just the kind of language that you have to use and the kind of grammatical structure that you have to use to get across that same tone that we're trying to create in our games can be very different at times. And I would never know that if I was just pasting in Google Translate.
My thought on what localization also does, in addition, if it's cultural relevance and cultural things, you've got to make maybe some game decisions where you have to change things in the game itself. It's not just about the script and how it hits someone culturally. It's not just the spoken. There are other elements to a localization that would occur based on understanding certain premises or things within the game. Is that incorrect?
I can think of two key examples that come to mind. One is the unspoken cost of localizing your game that I don't think a lot of gamers would expect. Just translating a game from one language to another is very frequently not enough because a lot of your game's language will not actually be text. You were probably going to have assets that might be like a store sign on the front of a building, and that's a PNG image that has text on it. So what are you going to do about that? Are you going to go create new art? So now to effectively localize your game, you need to hire a graphic designer to actually recreate all of those images. Or are you going to implement a subtitle system so that when you walk up to a sign that is written in one language, that text can appear on the bottom of the screen that's non-diegetic, that tells you what it says in your local language? Because then now that's a new technical system of you have to implement subtitles somehow that appear in at the right times based on where the player is looking and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So it can be a very expensive feature to implement if you want it done correctly. And then the other side of that coin is censorship. Different countries and different moods of different cultures will react to things like violence and nudity in completely different ways. Typically, gamers, at least hardcore gamers like myself and all of us watching gaming videos on YouTube and all that good stuff, are going to say we want the least amount of censorship possible. But especially if you're going to start talking about AAA games that are trying to have wide releases that don't want to make different censorship boards angry at them, you're going to have to pay attention to how much gore is there in your game, how much nudity is in your game, how many sexual themes are in your game, depending on who your target audience is.
What is censorship when it comes to a AAA game?
I seem to recall Resident Evil 8, 7, Village, or the one before Village, whose name I'm forgetting. I think it might have been the one where you're like in the house. So it must have been 7. I'm going to get this backwards. In either the American or the Japanese release, you like open a fridge and there's like a decapitated head sitting in there. And in one of the games, it like wasn't there, or they put a black bar over it or something.
That is specifically censorship. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense. The reason I asked is the game Unicorn Overlord, when it came out, there were people saying in the US version, they use such flowery language and they say all sorts of these and thous, like the knights, which they were like English knights. It's like, well, but when you translate it, here is what happens with the subtext of what they're saying versus here is what they actually said, and that is censorship. I don't know if it's censorship if you're just interpreting the story and making it more engaging to a specific audience. That's not censorship. That's just localization or bad translation according to your definition of it.
That's really interesting when you talk about anime and manga specifically, because that has such like a rooted culture in subs versus dubs. But then you can even go a layer deeper than that and just go for the people who read the manga, or especially if you're reading the manga with like translator notes. A lot of times in translated manga, they'll have, little asterisks that say like, in the Japanese spoken version of this, they're using this pun because this word sounds like this other word, and that's why this character laughs as a reaction to what they said. It's kind of interesting because the anime viewing community, the manga reading community, can filter into how much localization do you want. If you want the comfortable at home for you kind of experience, you can watch the dubbed anime. and they'll use the types of expressions that you're familiar with. It will feel like it's taking place at or near your home, compared to if you're going to watch the subtitled version, you're going to get probably a more literal translation of what's being said, because they can't change the inflection of what's being said. So the text has to better match the sounds that are being spoken.
That's a good example of, in something that you would watch, the difference between localization and translation. Whereas the subtitles would be more of a translation, you would expect. The vocal ones, where you hire actors, may have more of a localization approach.
Yeah.
You would only be able to get that if you had the subtitles on for each and compared them.
If I had to guess, if you're going to like subtitle Pokemon, it's probably not going to say Brock's Jelly Donuts in the subtitles. It would probably just say Brock's Rice Balls or Brock's Onigiri, compared to the famous English localization dubbing of that, where Brock is going on about his delicious jelly donuts as he holds up his ball of rice in the air.
That reminds me of what I was going to talk about just briefly for the Japanese release of the movie Inside Out, the Pixar movie. And they actually did have a scene where Riley, the main character, is refusing to eat broccoli, but they reanimated it for the Japanese release, showing her refusing to eat green bell peppers. They made this change, they say, because broccoli is generally enjoyed by children in Japan, while green peppers are commonly disliked in Japan. So that was a localization choice.
Interesting.
There are other examples you can look at online. I think Monsters, Inc., they had some changes there. Do you have any examples of what good localizations look like in video games, or bad localizations, or head-scratcher localizations?
I have the worst localization phenomena that I have ever and will ever witness in the entire history of video gaming.
I'm prepared mentally and physically for what's coming from you.
Are you familiar with the Wuxia genre?
No. What is that? How do I spell that first?
Wuxia.
Okay.
It's a whole genre that just failed the localization exam. The Wuxia genre is very Chinese.
Oh, okay.
Another word for it. I think wuxia is the term that has settled for now. The words we use to describe genres change all the time. Like I just discovered the word incremental as a new word to describe the idol genre. Wuxia has been called the cultivation genre.
Okay.
I think specifically because of the game Amazing Cultivation Simulator, which is in the contention for worstly translated video games of all time. Wuxia is this very, very confusing genre that's all about exploring Chinese mythology and culture, and there's some feng shui in it. There's definitely a martial arts lean to this, but Amazing Cultivation Simulator was the first game that was recommended to me in the wuxia genre to play, and oh my God, I had no idea what was happening at any point. It's a very, very confusing game that nothing is explained properly. None of the menus are labeled properly, where in like a tutorial it might reference a menu that the actual menu is named something differently than how it's referenced anywhere else in the game. And the systems in the game are so confusing and obtuse and strange, where like if you put a full cauldron of water in the east exit of a bedroom and then sleep in that bed, you die, because that's a feng shui thing or something.
Yeah, which we wouldn't know here necessarily.
The cultural translation is completely lost, and then the actual language translation is just this insane nightmare of I have no idea what's ever happening in this game at any point.
The feng shui, that's more of a cultural example. And then the one that you said about the language and whatever the storytelling elements are, that's a translation problem, but they're kind of connected. Not understanding the way feng shui works, either in real life or in game, that to me says it's got a bad tutorial if it doesn't tell you any of this stuff.
I mean, it's trying to.
Oh, okay.
It's just doing a very, very bad job.
Yeah, it's so poorly translated, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's very poorly translated and very poorly localized.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But it's such an interesting genre to me. None of it makes any sense. You look at the stats, you've got vigor, energy, spirits, and chi. What does any of that do?
You got to center your chi. I don't know.
Is one of those magic? Is one of those stamina?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It kind of has to tell you that what those things mean. Also, a localization problem.
Yes.
Right?
It can be some of both.
I mean, if it was localized, it would be, if chi is magic, call it magic in the US and then call it chi elsewhere. If there's a way to do that.
And part of the appeal of the wuxia genre is that it is deriving from a completely different mythology. That so much of what we play in Western RPGs and even JRPGs is based on medieval European fantasy and wizards and dragons and magic spells and all that good stuff. Swords and sorcery. And this is very much not that.
Okay.
Which is cool, but it also means that it's almost impenetrable to the average gamer. But that's kind of where you're at with this entire genre. You have to watch 16 hours of YouTube videos for somebody to explain how to just not die.
Did you ever play any of the Dynasty Warriors games?
I am the world's biggest Dynasty Warriors fan. Lay it on me.
Okay, because according to, and I don't know if this is correct, it says it's heavily influenced by Wuxia.
Oh, which one? Where are you seeing that word be used? Because they might be trying to hop on the bandwagon now.
It is AI. It says key Wuxia elements in Dynasty Warriors. Superhero combat, fantasy elements, Wuxia-inspired storytelling. Yes, Dynasty Warriors is heavily influenced by Wuxia, Chinese martial arts fantasy.
I'm not a Wuxia scholar to be able to tell you what the Wuxia influences are in Dynasty Warriors specifically.
I think they're just generalizing.
Yeah, I will say that Dynasty Warriors, it's based in ancient China, so you got that element. I would probably hesitate to say that anything Chinese is automatically Wuxia.
No, Dynasty Warriors kind of tries to merge this army, sort of large groups of enemies, traversing that in an action-y kind of way with these powers that you have. You're hitting people with stuff, but you do have your fantasy things that you can implement, right?
Sure. A lot of that is the combat side of things. They for a while they were marketing it as the 1 versus 1,000 combat, where it's all about trying to get a kill counter as high as possible.
Right.
But in between that, it's basically like a Japanese or a Korean soap opera.
Exactly. Yeah. Didn't Capcom do a Dynasty Warriors arcade game, but it wasn't nearly. It was just a side-scrolling beat-em-up.
I know Koei Tecmo does the main series. If Capcom did one, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, I think it was...
They did a game called Dynasty Wars.
Okay. Okay, so not Dynasty Warriors. It's Dynasty Wars.
No.
Okay, my mistake. But it does kind of look like that kind of thing. It's a side-scrolling beat 'em up, essentially.
It is based on the same Romance of the Three Kingdoms, which is a famous, I don't know what you call it, mythology. It's a famous novel with a very, very interesting writing style that's all about the three main ancient kingdoms of China, the Wu, the Shu, and the Wei, and how the empire is set into turmoil with the start of the Yellow Turban Rebellion. So I do see that Dynasty Wars by Capcom does feature Shu and the Yellow Turban Rebellion.
Okay. So for me, that was a California Pizza Chicken incident. My mom used to always call California Pizza Kitchen California Pizza Chicken for some reason, but we knew that that's what she meant. I confused Dynasty Wars with Dynasty Warriors. I apologize.
How could you? How culturally insensitive of you.
Well,
Time to go back to localization school.
And speaking of going back to localization school in China, I found this example from Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Oh.
Finger licking good was translated to literally eat your fingers off.
Love it. Love it.
And then apparently there was one for Pepsi, which is come alive with the Pepsi generation, which was translated to brings your ancestors back from the dead.
It's just that good. I mean, that is one of my favorite pastimes when I'm in Japan, is to just find all of the best poorly translated signs I can. and take pictures of them.
Here's another one. Mercedes-Benz, initially marketed as Bensi, 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 which in Mandarin is translated to rush to die, which is nice.
Wasn't that a big thing for the Chevy Nova? Because in Spanish, Nova means don't move.
That's another one. Yeah. Panasonic teamed up with Woody Woodpecker to launch internet-ready touchscreen PC. The intended campaign slogan was Touch Woody, the Internet Pecker, referring to both the interface and the cartoon mascot. In Japan, the branding raised no flags, but when previewed for a U.S. audience, became clear that Pecker was pretty inappropriate in the slang version, and the campaign was pulled.
That's pretty great. Whoever pulled that campaign needs to get fired. Are you kidding me? That's gold.
Here's the other one that I think is gold. Electrolux. In Swedish it worked, but the campaign slogan was nothing sucks like an Electrolux.
Okay.
I think that's hilarious, personally.
Of course.
Whenever I'm at the Starbucks and they're cleaning out the bean hoppers and they've got the vacuum cleaner, I say, hey, just a second, and make them turn it off. And I say, like, that sucks. See? I'm using the same humor, man. It's no localization. I don't think I'm ever going to get to that pinnacle. I'm reading this from an article, YLT Translations, which is apparently a translation and localization company. So they're kind of doing this as a why it's important to have good localizations.
The fact that we're talking and laughing about all of the bad examples of localization is a great hint as to what good localization means. It's one of those features like good UX that, when done well, disappears, and nobody will talk about it, nobody will think about it, nobody will notice it.
Now, what is the focus of localization?
That's a great question.
Because it seems to me it's all a corporate idea to sell more stuff. It's all based in the promotions and advertising area. Unless you're trying to design a piece of art that is accurate for and sensitive to a specific locale, I think in the mind of the artist, it's just like, yeah, here's the thing that I created and here's the thing that I want to say. And if you misinterpret it, that's not my problem. I'm not trying to mass sell this thing or whatever. It's my piece of art. But that's where it gets a little tricky with video games, because there are people who do that for their games. It's just, this is my vision, and if people like it, that's fine, and if people don't. But then localization comes into the thing, and when you localize something, you're doing it for a reason, and that reason generally is tied to money.
That's 100% correct. And that is the crux of the conflict of, do you try and localize in a way that preserves the artist's vision, or do you try and localize in a way that fits into the product landscape of the country that you're going to localize to?
And that's probably a very tricky situation by situation kind of thing to assess. If you're a company, your focus is making money, those risks, kind of like with, to bring it back to the DLSS 5 example, you got to understand the audience too. I mean, just because you think it's no big deal from your perspective doesn't mean that someone is not going to misinterpret this anyway. It's still a consideration. And even knowing your audience and knowing how they're getting their information, I mean, that's knowing your demographics, which an AI would not make that mistake. CEO, if we had an AI running the corporations, that would be better. That's a joke. Probably not. I don't know. I don't want to put that out there. I don't want to lose my job over my podcast.
Please don't fire us, Skynet.
Oh, you know what? I have one more example of localization that's similar to your zeroing, the popular meme, specifically Street Fighter 2. Maybe this is an example of localization, but it's an interesting story to me nonetheless, and it's what I think of when I think of localizing choices. They did a name swap. I don't know if you've played the games, but are you familiar with the characters M. Bison, who's the big bad, Balrog, who is the boxer, and then Vega, who's the Spanish Wolverine-looking ninja, those names were different in Japan because M. Bison actually stands for Mike Bison, and that was the boxer. Boxer was Mike Bison. Balrog was the Spanish ninja, and Vega was the main boss.
Interesting.
And the main thing that they say was the reason that they changed M. Bison was because they didn't want to get sued for having his name Mike.
Of course.
So they just called him M. Bison. So you can take that as the big bad of Street Fighter. His name is Mike, which I always think was funny. It's like, oh, you're going to play Mike? It's like, what?
Gonna play Mikey Bison.
Mikey Bison. Mikey Bison. That would have been a good change. Michael, maybe calling him Michael, and maybe saying it's Michael Besson.
There you go. He's the French guy after all.
Exactly. That's what you could do. You could change the whole history. But I just thought that was one of those nuggets of trivia that not everyone knows. I think a lot of video game nerds know.
I'm not the biggest fighting game guy, and this is the first time I've heard it. I can't believe I've never made that connection before.
Did you ever play the Darkstalkers series?
I know Darkstalkers. Obviously, that's where everybody's favorite character from Marvel vs. Capcom came from.
Riku? Is that what you're talking about? Riku, the merman, is everyone's favorite character?
No. I actually wasn't. I was definitely talking about either the succubus or the cat girl. Either or, take your pick.
Okay. Felicia or Morrigan? Morrigan being the succubus.
Yes.
And yeah, just give you a little heads up. I have the Japanese version of the Darkstalkers for Matching Service game that I bought and play it on my Dreamcast. I use a little trick, which is the Game Shark tiptoes past the regional settings. So if you load up your Game Shark and then you put in the Darkstalkers game and say just play game and not put any codes in or whatever, right past the regional settings. So you can play Japanese games on your US Dreamcast. Pro tip.
Did not know that. Look at that. That's a gem right
there.
There
We go. And you had to listen to all the way to the end of the episode to get that.
That's some good conditioning there. Make sure to stick around and listen to the end of all of these episodes.
Because you never know. Let me see. The Merman. Albath is the name. Why was it changed? That's what I want to know. How do you pronounce that? Rikuo. Rikuo.
That would be Rikuo.
Okay, so Rikuo. I don't want to know his personality or his blood type or his weaknesses.
What did he major in college?
Exactly. It's giving me all this backstory stuff. Rikuo's date of birth coincides with the release date of the classic The Creature from the Black Lagoon. That's an interesting little thing.
Hey, look at that. I do see on the wiki it says, Rikuo is one of the characters that had their name originally created by Capcom USA, but was changed in Japan as a result of Capcom Japan feeling that the name would be seen as strange to the audience.
Strange?
I guess maybe Albath came out first.
Huh. So that implies that the game was developed in the US and then went to Japan?
At least the name was.
Interesting. Capcom sought to localize the names to sound more natural to non-Japanese players, a common practice during the mid-90s arcade era. It did come out in Japan, but they tried to localize the names to sound more American, and the Japanese go, no. So despite the change for Western releases, Rikuo was ultimately favored as the character's name. It looks like they changed it in Japan, so now it's Rikuo. That's very interesting. To me, anyway. Probably not Nora, but she's probably checked out by now.
I get very confused about how they convert some of these spellings.
Mm.
In katakana, the name Albath is Orubasu. So how do you go from Orubasu to AUL Bath? Which one of those came first? How do you come up with Albath?
I do not know.
Such a strange name.
And Rikuo looks pretty normal to me, but if a Japanese audience thought it was odd.
I do like going back and looking at some of these games and seeing, like, this was before we figured out which mythologies would be popular. We still had, like, weird Hulk monsters and mer people and all that, and werewolves and stuff. We didn't know that it was all going to be ninjas, pirates, and zombies.
You know what? I just thought of another localization thing, which was for Puckman, which is Pac-Man.
Classic example.
Being able to change the P to an F, I guess, or whatever.
All of the Scott Pilgrim fans just had a big sigh of relief that we finally talked about Puckman before ending the conversation.
Do you want to talk about SUDA51?
I think SUDA51 is an interesting example just because it's one where the creative vision, the creative voice of SUDA51 is the product. So you wouldn't want to localize that away. If you're buying a SUDA51 game, you want it because it's a SUDA51 game, which is very unique in, I don't know how many mid-budget games even exist these days, but non-indie space.
And I'm talking specifically about Romeo as a Dead Man now, because I've been playing that a little bit too, but I didn't know if we were going to cover it here. SUDA51 definitely has his own voice. We talked about it a little bit on the punk episode about how he or his company is regarded as the punk rock of video game developers. He was kind of put on the map sort of by his writing and, what is it, Super Fire Wrestling Pro, that's what it is, where his whole main character storyline was he commits suicide. And it's like,
oh, yeah, Jesus,
that's kind of what you're in for when you play a SUDA51 game. But some of the ones that got me into SUDA51, he had a part in Lollipop Chainsaw. There was Killer is Dead, which was also one that I enjoyed, even though it was very weird and had some cultural sort of things that were kind of like eyebrow raisers. It was like a romancing kind of thing that you did.
Killer is Dead got a pretty good marketing push in the States, but the biggest one, the one that I first discovered him by, and I think probably much of the American audience of his games did, is the Wii game.
Yeah, Travis Touchdown, No More Heroes.
Yeah.
It was fun and it was interesting. It had that kind of low-tech HUD kind of thing that was going. That looked like there was a little bit of a slot machine mechanic there that would go on with playing the game, which it seems like he did with Romeo as a Dead Man, but it's more, it feels like a quilt more than it does a video game. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like you take pieces and you just kind of stitch them together, kind of Frankenstein them or whatever. That's not necessarily negative. That kind of adds to the interesting sort of nature of what SUDA51's artistic feeling is on the game, or, you know, what he wants to say.
Sure.
But the one that really hit for me, and I'm guessing it had a lot to do with localization, was Shadows of the Damned, which he complains a lot about, that they kind of stifled. He learned a lot about the game industry and about Electronic Arts and about your AAAs through that experience, he says. But the things that he wanted to do and the story he wanted to tell, he thought it was altered to a point where it wasn't his vision 100%.
Yeah.
That being said, just the story to me is what pulled me through the whole game. It just connected with me. Have you played the game? Probably not.
I have not played this one, no, but I am very familiar with it. This was also pretty big.
And the story this is my favorite thing to say. Every time I have a chance to say it, I do. You met your girlfriend because you found her in a dumpster behind the grocery store and you nursed her back to health.
Very The Crow.
As it turns out, she's the mistress of the demon lord, and he tortures your character, who is Garcia Hotspur.
What a good name.
And his gun that talks to you is named Johnson. One of his forms is the Big Boner.
Say what you will about SUDA51. At least he's got his character names down.
Yeah. The Big Boner is appropriate because your gun, Johnson, is like a skeleton. So, I mean, you know, that's... Who knows that probably wasn't a localization choice, but maybe it was. I mean, who knows? But anyway, the game itself, the mechanics are mediocre. The aiming and the shooting of your guns feels just a little bit like your older Resident Evil, the way they sway, the way they target a little bit. Not in a bad way, just in kind of a unique sort of way. Maybe that was intentional. The game mechanics are just, they're okay. The thing that pulled me along was the story of how your girlfriend keeps on getting killed over and over again. You're trying to rescue her. You have to fight all these bosses until you get to her. And when you rescue her, she kind of reverts to her demon lord form because she's angry at you for letting her die over and over again. And when you rescue her, and take her back, you fall in love again, but then you get another call from, he's got a really dumb name too, the evil guy. Fleming. That's his name. Fleming.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a great, intimidating bad guy name.
You got to make an evil boss named Steve next.
I appreciate that these SUDA51 games are clearly designed to entertain you, which is kind of hard to find these days.
My criticism so far of Romeo as a Dead Man, the game mechanics piece is lacking. It's not enough. Yeah, it's got some fun gameplay, but it's such a weird sort of mishmash of different styles. Like there's a little spaceship sort of shooting thing, and then you've got when you go and fight the zombies in the mall, sort of the style of Travis Touchdown and No More Heroes, like that kind of thing. You get zombie parts, and then you got, from those you find zombie seeds, and then you've got a garden on your spaceship that you can plant these zombie seeds and grow bastards, which are these characters that you take along that have different powers that will help you, like heal you and stuff.
That's just wonderful. I want to grow bastards and bring bastards along with me on my quest.
Yeah, they're zombie bastards. And it goes very old school with the presentation of the spaceship, 8-bit almost. Something about the cohesion in the story is not succinct enough for me.
Sure.
Whereas the other one was pulling me along. This one, maybe it could be, it feels like a copy, because this one, it's like you're turned into a part zombie, part cyborg or whatever. And there's a time travel thing where versions of your fiance are trying to ruin the universe, and you've got to defeat them so you can find your girlfriend, or I don't know. It just seems as you do the different incarnations of your time traveling girlfriend anomalies that keep on trying to kill you. Yeah, as a story, yes, it's weird, but the game still needs to pull me along, and that's not what it's doing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's anything that localization necessarily could have wrapped up.
No.
It's a game mechanics thing more than localization. But in Shadows of the Damned, I think that was a game that was made more successful to U.S. audiences because of the localization and maybe some of the changes they made along the way.
Yeah. I do think it's really interesting to think about what it would even mean to localize a game mechanic. Everybody always talks about localization in terms of dialogue and story and graphics and stuff like that. But you do have very differently popular genres in different communities and in different countries.
We talked about pachinko, which I guess is gambling a little bit. That is a phenomenon that doesn't necessarily translate over here unless you do tweak it somehow. You wouldn't really necessarily localize the game mechanic because the game mechanic itself would be whatever the game mechanic is, right? It could be perceived as a good game mechanic or a bad game mechanic, but I don't think you can actually necessarily localize a game mechanic. You can localize a game to include certain mechanics.
Sure, but I mean, if you're making a gambling game and you want to sell it in Japan and sell it in the US, make a pachinko ball that bounces around a little environment for the Japanese game, and then make a slot machine for the American audience, and then
merge them together, and
you could do that. But 96% of the rest of the game is going to be the same.
That's what that marble pusher thing is. I mean, that's my opinion of what it looks like. It looks like a combination of a slot machine and a coin pusher. And we come full circle. So what are your final thoughts on the word localize?
It's a very important word, and it's only going to get more important from here. You're seeing tons of localization companies cropping up, and you're seeing movies now. They only care about appealing to the Chinese movie-going, theater-going audience. And we're probably going to see that start to crop up in big AAA games, if we haven't already. Globalization, it's here, it's happening. It's a really fun challenge. It's actually really fun to localize a game and to think about how you would try to communicate your ideas in different cultures.
And I think your reasons are noble, whereas when it comes to a big company, it doesn't seem like it's noble to me. money might be a concern on your company's mind, but thinking of it as a challenge, I think, is what you would do to make it successful in the end. And how do we tweak this and not lose anything from the game when we do that? I think that's a noble pursuit, but sometimes it's just done for money.
Yeah, I've been talking a lot about the business angle on a couple of these different topics, and that's just because my natural inclination is to make very unique and different sorts of experiences. And so with localization, my inclination is always to try and preserve the tone and the mood and the narrative intent of what's being communicated. And so for me personally, I have to add an extra layer of like, okay, no, sometimes it's okay to let go of the creative vision if it allows for a more accessible, entertaining experience for people in different cultures.
And I applaud you for that. I always knew you were a cool guy, but now you're even cooler in my book.
It can be hard to do. What you do is video games, it's hard to let go sometimes, but it's important to make sure that people enjoy and understand what you're making.
That's the balance, which is video games, I think, as kind of its own unique art form. You're actually putting this thing out for people to enjoy, and there's an interaction that occurs. So that means you're engaging. It's not performance art or painting or anything. And your viewpoint as a user and what you perceive as the goal of the game and things, those are important. But marrying those two, you're saying your thing, but you don't want to lose something in the translation or the localization that's important to the message. It's a tricky balance, is maintaining the artistic integrity of something and making it marketable at the same time.
Especially on Steam when you're trying to localize to 30 different languages.
Yeah. Well, Steam's just dumb. We'll just say it, right? Steam is what happens when you heat up water. That's what happens.
To everybody out here listening to this podcast and all 30 of the different Steam-supported regions, I love you all equally, and we're working real hard to try and localize our game to every one of these languages. But oh my goodness gracious, it is a lot of work.
Yeah, make sure you just disagree with me officially on the record. Steam is not dumb. Steam is fine. I like Steam. It's great.
Steam is great until anybody wants to compete for the crown, and then
yeah,
all bets are off. Come on, other platforms. Woo!
It's kind of a Steam-dominated market these days, and that's just the way they built their thing, and kudos to them. Ish. My final thoughts on the word localization. Bad localizations may be bad for the company, but they're good for our laughing.
They can be some of the most memorable experiences.
Exactly. Christian, thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode. I really appreciate it. Let's do this again sometime. We'll continue to communicate by semaphore.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been great chatting with you as always, Ben.
Likewise. Do you know semaphore?
I do not know semaphore.
Do you have the flags? You don't have the flags. I guess if you don't know semaphore.
The flags?
Semaphore.
Oh my goodness gracious. How out of touch am I? Oh, the red and yellow flags.
Yeah.
Ah, look at that.
Yep.
Okay.
Brush up in your semaphore and we'll... No, but you don't have to.
We will make sure to release the semaphore translation of Rogue Climber coming soon.
Localized for people who use semaphore.
For people who exclusively speak in flag.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, audience, for joining us on this week's episode of the Too Vague Podcast. My name was Ben.
My name was Christian.
Oh, yeah. Did I say was? It still is, though, right? And we've been your hosts. Have a wonderful night. Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.